is it running? I don't know. Something went wrong. Okay. I kind of understand where it went wrong. Yeah. I know where it went wrong. I don't know.
So it was from your laptop.
No. The link was open in my laptop, and it was like it was static. And then as soon as we started, with a 5-second lag, it started. Hey, but anyway, I think we are live, and we have people around. Hey guys, everyone, welcome to the 125th edition of ClariTea Chat. Today we have with us Praveen Shrikhande, CDIO of Aditya Birla Fashion and Retail Limited, part of a leading Indian conglomerate, Aditya Birla Group. Hey, welcome Praveen to the session. Cheers.
Thanks, Jagdish. Yeah, nice to be here.
Yes. Hey, sorry guys. First of all, happy Navratri to everybody, and best wishes for an upcoming Dashara. Sorry, I think the confusion was at my end. I think it was going on good for everybody except me, and because my ClariTea Chat session was open on YouTube, and I could hear two soundtracks, and I got really confused, so we just stopped it. But nevertheless, let's start on that funny note. Let me introduce Praveen to you, all of you. He has over 30 years of experience in technology management uh, and digital transformation across financial services, cable TV, BPO, and retail. One thing, as we will go through the session, you will realize that he's an innovator and early adopter of new technologies, who's focused on building core capabilities. It's like, as they say, not for the show, but for the dough. And he firmly believes in the power of technology to transform businesses. His leadership philosophy is, like it or not, but technology does transform business as well as business models. We will cover his life story, but there are some overarching themes on which we will focus in a very focused way. One, of course, will be the transformation by being the first mover. Then the other one is like focus on building the digital core, do some fundamental foundational stuff, which he has done repeatedly across his multiple tenures. Another one, and this is going to be very interesting, is the phygital retail, which is how do you build how do you architect and build a seamless physical and digital retail. And uh, he has managed through three different crises: the dot-com bubble, the dot-com bust, the global financial crisis, and COVID. And I'm keen to pick up his insights and learnings from these three experiences. And we will end the chat with a rapid fire round to bring the personal side of Praveen, and then a reverse question to me. So for now, Praveen, before we start talking of serious things, let's get some energy going up. So please share, a interesting incident from your professional journey.
Yeah. In fact, I was thinking of what that could be. So there's one which I kind of remember well, though it's a while back. This was when I was at WNS. So WNS was actually a subsidiary of British Airways, and then it was sold off to private equity and became a standalone company. And I joined soon after it went private and it got spun off. And I think it was 2-3 years later. I mean, so we were trying to get more business beyond British Airways, and we had acquired some large airline customers. And one of the travel portals, earliest travel portals called Travelocity, was a big customer. So in one of our management conferences, the head of the travel business, who was pretty much running about 70-80% of the business, came up and said that, guys, what is the fastest way of becoming a millionaire? So we all were stunned. Like we said, my God, you're going IPO, right? All of us had, fortunate enough to have got stocks who got in there early. And we said, wow, we didn't expect it so soon, but that's what he's going to talk about. And then he says after some time that, the fastest way to become a millionaire is to start a billionaire and then own an airline. This was before some of the big busts that we saw in the Indian market. But the business where the moment you own a plane, it's a problem. So we used to say that we run everything that an airline does except fly planes. And so he was basically saying why we should not fly planes while we do everything else. So,
Got it, got it. No, actually, I think so true, and in fact, you will say so prophetic that that's what we see happen to Jet Airways and then to Kingfisher. Turned, it converted billionaires into millionaires. Well, it made millionaires out of billionaires. Okay, thanks for sharing that, Praveen bhai. So before we begin the serious stuff, let me also acknowledge our audience. So we have CXOs, founders, IT managers, and seasoned technology industry leaders in our audience. All of us know that technology is necessary, but not sufficient to drive business performance. The guests on Clarity Chat, like Praveen, have built that bridge between the necessary and sufficient with their art of managing technologies, as you will witness today. And Clarity Chat is trying to build that bridge between their learnings and all of you who are trying to make a powerful impact with technology. So thank you all for joining us for the last 124 episodes, and encouraging us with your interactions, questions. That's what keep us going. So may I request our audience to share their name and where you're joining from in the comment box of LinkedIn or YouTube. But the fastest finger first. So Puran bhai, thanks for joining us and giving out your first comment. But meanwhile, guys, everyone, please share your name and where you're joining from. So let's start with Praveen. So Praveen, give us an overview of your education, career, companies, roles, with one highlight of each. And this more like to give a kind of map of your career before we start zooming into different aspects.
sure, Jagdish. So yeah, I think I grew up in a typical middle class family, and I was doing well in school and so on, and obviously focused on the schools, and managed to get into IIT. And I was in IIT Bombay, joined there for BTech and computer science. And but once I got in, I pretty much decided that अब हो गया, I have to do something more in life than just focusing on academics. And I think that was those 4 years probably were the best part of my life. Like, you didn't have to worry. You knew that you pass out, you'll get some job. At that time, we were not very ambitious, right? We didn't know startups and this and that. We thought, graduate हो गया, एक engineer का job मिल जाएगा कहीं. That's all good. So that's so we that was the, and so I used that time, I think, to do a lot of other things. I got involved in I did a fair bit of mountaineering, rock climbing. Picked that up. Did trekking. Then I was involved in the campus politics. Became a general secretary of the students and so on. So did some ham radio, a bunch of things. Pretty much I used to have this every semester. I should try something new. And after IIT, after I graduated, my first job actually was a software startup based out of Delhi. It was a company called Softtech, which of course doesn't exist anymore. They were building system software at that point. One of the very few companies which essentially was trying to build Indian software for popular international software. So they were building a Word. There was no Word actually. It used to be WordStar, right? So WordStar equivalent in for Hindi, and similarly something like Lotus spreadsheets. And I was involved in a couple of those projects. Couple of years I was there. Then I decided to do an MBA and join IIM Bangalore, where I majored in finance systems. And post that, first job actually was with ICICI before it became a bank. So at that point, it was a lending institution. Worked there for 2 years. It was mainly around financing, long-term financing. At that time, that's what the institutions used to do. Didn't I mean it was I didn't enjoy it so much. It was not that interesting. So I had the Rajas was setting up a fund in which some of my friends were joining. So they called me and said, why don't you come over? We had about 100 crore corpus, which in those days, this was like 94, 95, was a sizable sum. So I joined there, and there we had a corpus, and we were essentially young guys, mainly from banking, financial institute, and we started investing in different businesses. So I was involved in setting up a couple of businesses, or something in building materials. We started a magazine called Outlook, which is still there today. then the cement, then Excite batteries we acquired at that point in time, and then we acquired the cable television business. So in about a couple of years, we had invested our corpus, and we had to then figure out how to make get those companies to start actually generating cash, right? Which was the more difficult part. So then most of us got getting involved in the operational aspects of business, and that's when I got into cable television. So spent almost 6 years there. I think a very interesting period when that industry had just started, and it was in a very nascent stage, and with all its dynamics of turf wars and so on. So interesting times. Uh, by the by the time around early 2000, we went through a major to the dot com boom and then the bust, which affected us in some ways, which I'll talk about. And then uh, I realized that the cable television industry was not going to go far for some time, because it was again very regulated, and regulation had a lot to do with how the industry panned out, particularly around moving from analog to digital, which the government initially mandated, and then they kept deferring it and delaying. In fact, it got almost delayed by 10 years till it got mandatorily, it was mandated that it would be rolled out on digital across the country. So I moved to BPO, which was again a nascent business starting off at that time, very early days, where there were few players like Amex and General Electric. They had set up their captives, and they were all looking at setting up third-party BPOs. And so almost I think 12 years in the BPO industry, 7 years with WNS Global Services, and then 5 years with Sutherland Global Services, which was a US headquartered BPO with global operations. And thereafter, I had opportunity to join the Aditya Birla group, and initially in the group CIO organization. So I was there for a couple of years, handling certain technology transformation and security and partner engagement. That was my role there. And in the meantime, there was a position which came up in the fashion retail business around 2018, which is when November 2018 is when I joined Aditya Birla Fashion Retail. So been there now for 6.5 years, through a very interesting period that the industry has gone through. So that broadly covers my career.
Oh yeah, no, that's a good good snapshot of like your career. So just to kind of like play back. So uh, I think we are of the times when there used to be no career anxieties, and therefore you could actually utilize college to kind of
Yes.
like just come out of your that anxiety. I mean that anxiety of getting into engineering college, and then you can explore a lot of your other interests.
Yeah, I think the
Uh,
aspirations were not much beyond what will you do afterwards, because that was still,
those were the times, I can say. Yeah. So, by the way, I think you're a certified mountaineer, right? Basic mountaineering course certified.
Yeah, I've done in college, of course, long back, a basic mountaineering program, which was like a month-long program in Nehru Institute of Mountaineering, Uttarkashi. So
Wow. I mean, can you imagine a time when, like, when he left, when he spent one month, off his studies to get that certification,
no,
and
it
he
wasn't so difficult, because we used to have almost 2.5 month summer
correct
break
the
in
vacation. Yeah. No,
college.
but nowadays vacation people are more
Yeah, no,
anxious to
people put it into, yeah, like doing serious stuff. That
even
time,
I've been approached by first year students who want to do internship after first year.
right.
We didn't used to think about it even before third year. Yeah, yeah. And I think so. I think that's a very interesting career map. Like starting from project financing to sort of getting into an investment fund, and then starting various businesses, investing in various businesses, then getting your hands dirty into one of the investee businesses, basically building up one of the businesses, and then again going to a sunrise industry of BPO with a couple of companies, and then coming to group IT. But then I mean, I would say it's very hard to keep you in the headquarters. You want to be in the
I like
in
to
the
get my hands dirty. So
yeah, yeah, exactly. So now, I mean, sort of sorting out the entire Aditya Birla fashion retail, and sort of like putting it on a growth path. So Praveen bhai, as we were talking earlier, um, you have led a lot of first mover, transformations, being early to a technology, and then leveraging it to kind of differentiate the business itself from the rest of the industry. But we also know that many times the rapid adoption of new technologies, there's also a first mover's disadvantage. Like you can get logged on to higher price points, and then you basically, the second and third movers, they are all able to, like, learn from you, and then they're able to do something very fast, what you took some time to figure out and do, and I've experienced it myself. So the question is, how do you balance the need for rapid adoption of new technologies while maintaining the stability and scalability of existing operations, especially when you're charting, pioneering uncharted territory? So tell us about those, maybe in the context of what you did as a first mover. Let's talk about, like, some of those learnings.
Sure. Uh, yeah, so I think partly I had the maybe opportunity, fortune of getting into businesses where technology had a play. I mean, these were businesses where the technology was core to the business. I mean, now in the cable television business, for instance, when we started, the technology of cable television was evolving, right? You started with 2 channels and exploded to 100 channels. It was analog, then it started moving digital. And
Yeah.
it was clear that technology would drive the business model and not it was not be something that is just for let's say bookkeeping and so on, which is the case in other business, and nothing wrong with that. So some cases it may not apply, right? My experience may be specific to businesses where technology has a role to play in terms of transforming the business, right? So there for it was the launching of data services. Very quickly we realized in the cable television business that uh, providing analog TV services was never going to work, because the way analog works is you just tap the cable at one point and channels flow through. So you have no access control. The moment you have no access control, there is no way to whatever onboard offboard customers, right? So people pay, don't pay, doesn't matter. They will get the signal as long as the cable is connected. And this is what the cable operator network knew obviously very well, and they used to exploit that. So they would collect money because they were with the customers, but they would not pay the companies which are actually giving them the signal, on the cable. They didn't. They would not. They would always try to avoid that. And as long as there was competition in the market, they could manage to do that. But once you put digital, then you have a set-top box or a device which you can control and turn it on off remotely. And the moment you're able to do that, then you have direct access to customer plus the ability to control paying, non-paying customers and so on. So it was clear that that would matter. And also at that time, the entire of course internet was taking off in the late 90s, early 2000, and the technology of doing broadband on internet came up. So it was that this was the only way if to really get value from the business, and which we did. I mean, significantly, in sense that though we didn't, it took a while to roll it out, but we were able to raise almost, I think it was $75 million at a valuation of $50 million, and of
Wow.
course because of the dot-com boom, it was in that heady period of dot-com where anything to do with internet was on the high. But the story to get that valuation was purely on the basis that we will be able to offer data services, internet access, broadband internet access, which didn't exist in India. In fact, we were the first to launch broadband internet in South Bombay, Nariman Point area at that time, to offices. And so it made us. Similarly, when I moved to BPO, for the
This
BPO
was
industry,
sorry. So this was Hathway, right?
this was in Hathway, correct?
Okay.
So this is an Hathway cable, and then of course then I moved to AsiaNet. So 2 years we acquired one more business called AsiaNet Satellite Communication, which ran cable television in the state of Kerala. And I also rolled out. Then there, fortunately, we had a organized television network. We had the rights of way on the electricity poles from the state electricity board, and because of that, we had our own network reaching all the way home. And so it was much easier to make that network fully two-way enabled, and we also put a fiber backbone there. So, and again, a lot of these technologies, SDH, and so on were evolving for the telecom world as well. Right, telecom world was moving from analog to digital, and cable television also had that inflection point in that at that time. And we were to leverage that to start offering value-added services, digital and data value-added services, which really made those businesses viable going forward. So that was one. I think second case was, of course, in BPO. The structure when I joined there, early days, connectivity was critical. I mean, I part of the reason I got a job there was because I knew networks. I had spent a few years in networks,
Oh
like
yeah,
able
yeah,
to.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, yeah.
So there were not early days. Again, there was only one ISP, BSNL. If you needed a lease line from India to the US, where your customers were, or Europe, you needed to get those 2 Mbps lease lines. Would take months to deliver, and you had to make sure that what on top of that you were running connectivity to the client systems or the client telephone infrastructure to be able to run the BPO business. So, in fact, also from a cost point of view, at that point in time, the economics of the BPO business was such that 30% of the cost was people, 30% was facilities, right? Premises, food, transportation, and so on. And 30% was bandwidth. In IT, the technology, the biggest cost was bandwidth, and for the business also, it was very critical. Uh, and then, of course, as it opened up and as technology got better, we were able to get optimized the usage of bandwidth over a period of time, and it became standard. But when we launched, we set up our own MPLS network before most carriers had set up. And very hardly any telcos had MPLS in those days. But the whole rationale for putting in an MPLS network in an enterprise was really to be able to carry data and voice on the same circuit, which essentially helped us to optimize the cost of bandwidth. Because we didn't need to take separate lease lines for running voice and data as other competition were doing. So there's a need to do something creative and get it to work, and it will add value. And same on top of that network, then I also launched the first, more or less, first usage of a large scale VoIP service. So we moved the entire telecom infrastructure to VoIP in the early mid 2000s. And this was again long wire voice, where your ACD is sitting in India or in the US, and then phone sitting at the other end with 250 millisecond latency, and managing all of that on an IP network with quality of service. And so all of those capabilities were critical to get that business profitable and to be able to work effectively as a
Oh,
business
that's
model.
interesting. Yeah,
So yeah,
awesome.
I think that's where I guess I was always very comfortable with making bets on technology, on evolving technology. Being a early adopter, not necessarily first mover, but an early adopter, and ha- using that as an opportunity to actually drive the business.
Yeah. So I think what I see here is also like your ability to not just like look at technologies but foresee where the technology is going, and where the business is going to go, where the industry is going to go. Because what you said about like that the cable TV, the key issue being like whether you get revenue out of access, and how do you control that. If you can't control access, then you have leakage of revenue, right? And then logically kind of making that bet on a very logical kind of reasoning that this is going to go towards internet, and then we have to control access, therefore we need to go digital. And then you, on top of that, you add value with broadband internet. So I mean, again the other thing, like core to your business model is network, and then so you start transforming the network with whatever available, or even innovating on that. So that's really interesting. So let's move on to the next one, uh, which is like um, which is about building the digital core. So now let's come to like I think not just I think you have done a lot of work on in ABFRL, but let's pick on all your experiences in terms of like the philosophy of building digital core, which is how do you ensure that the digital core, I mean, end of the day, technology is like a skyscraper. and where most of the foundation will never be visible, but it will go very, very deep, right? And that's the digital core. And this has to basically withstand your future technological advancements, while also delivering immediate business value. So tell us about, like, how do you think about digital core and how do you go about building it? And maybe, as I said, not the philosophy, but real examples, including Aditya mentioned detail.
Yeah. Yeah, I think as you rightly said, right? Often the what is visible gets attention, right? So what is customer facing always gets attention, and people often tend to not invest at the back end of the technology, which becomes critical the moment you succeed. You have success. So it's okay to do with some at a POC level and try things out. But the moment you're making a bet on it and you're going to scale it up, it's very important to actually over invest on the core technology, because eventually once you have a customer base, if your backend is not working effectively, it will only cause problems. I mean, managing it, it just for IT people it becomes sleepless nights essentially, right? If you have not got your core in place. So, and again, the experiences that I shared, right? In Hathway, for instance, when we started internet services, right, setting up the ISP backbone was a critical part. And it's okay, you could lay cable, get a modem, but that whole thing would not work unless you upgraded the network, made it two-way, made it reliably two-way. You cannot depend on okay, one pilot you ran, it worked fine, you roll out. You have to actually invest in getting the whole network upgraded, making it two-way, plus invest in an ISP backbone, which in those days was early days. And there were very few people who knew how to set up a ISP backbone, whatever routers, internet connectivity, billing systems, all of that. But that really is critical the moment you start scaling your business, unless you invest in those. Coming to retail, for instance, again, see, we moved from being a offline player, where Core was primarily designed to support the offline business, right? But since we are facing competition from online, especially post COVID in a big way, we had to make sure that we enabled online. But to be able to support that online business and scale effectively, we had to make sure that the core was ready to handle the whole omni-channel, and which is not it's not straightforward. I mean, the whole what goes into having a seamless flow of order, and then that order getting dispatched from a warehouse which is used to shipping in bulk, to start shipping one shirt at a time, or one dress at a time, and that too reliably, and having delivering in time without failure, with good quality. All of these were big learnings, and a lot of the effort to make that work was actually in fixing the core. So uh, we did invest in transforming our core SAP backbone, moved to the S4 HANA, merged all our multiple ERPs that we're sitting on, changed our point of sale from on-prem solution to a cloud solution, so that it would have seamless integration between online and offline. So unless you do those backend things, scaling and running the business reliably becomes a challenge. That's been my belief. So you have to plan your investments at both ends.
Oh, that's no, that's interesting. So now let's come to before we go to the most interesting part of the conversation. I want to bring in some comments from our audience, just to let them know that, hey guys, we are getting your comments. So please keep sending your comments and questions. So Vinay, hey, hi Vinay, thank you there. Nitin, hi Nitin, thanks for joining. And Neeraj says certified mountaineer. Wow. And now, since we are on the question of, like, core and your previous one, discourse about the network. So Nitin is asking, how does future look for network technology? What is that SND and FE? And that sounds like some quantum computing to me. So you can explain that as well. Praveen.
Yeah, I think maybe Nitin will have to explain what does those acronyms stand for. It's new to me. I don't know if SND or you mean, yeah, but I mean, in general, I mean, like SD-WAN, right? I mean, after MPLS, SD-WAN came. Typically, new technology will come in that 10-year time frame. It'll take a few years to mature, but if it adds some inherent value, either from performance or from cost, right, it will become the go-to in future.
Okay, okay. So, so there's another question which has come from Prabhakar. He's asking, everyone is bitten by FOMO. How do you evaluate and ensure the technology chosen will be relevant for at least 5 years to recover the investment?
Uh, so, see, that fear of missing out, we have to be clear. We have to be clear in our minds and with the management whether a particular technology really adds value to your business or not, right? It should not be just because it's the flavor of the month that you go and do. I mean, like, there have been many, see, technologies every year, and you go to Gartner and they will come up with the next new thing, right? Not all of them are necessarily the best for your business, or not all of them even mature or take time. I mean, they don't mature the next year as often they say this is coming next year, right? Uh, there have been like blockchain, right? So blockchain became a big thing a few years back. It was a big thing.
Correct, correct,
Uh,
correct.
but blockchain, once you understand that blockchain is about ecosystems and not really for an enterprise, right? There isn't that much value that it adds to an enterprise platform. So unless you are in an ecosystem business, blockchain may not really make sense for you to dabble in, right? But AI, for instance, may have huge value. I mean, it's a core transformation technology. So you have to be clear that if this is going to change your business, and that's probably one of those things which will probably change each and every business, maybe the world way we live and so on, right? As people say. So you cannot not invest. I mean, you have to be ahead in that. But even today, like metaverse, again, 2 years back, right? Metaverse became such a big thing, and people said we will. Facebook changed its name, right? So, however, again, in context of your business, where was the use case? I think that you have to be clear. Again, we also dabbled a bit in it, but we never put money behind it. It is okay to put a little bit in it, but you have to get the clarity soon enough that whether this will be relevant for the business that you are in.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So I think this has been repeated in, like, quite a few conversations within Clarity Chat also, that as you rightly said, the visible aspect of IT, like, everyone wants to be associated with some example or some showcase of digital transformation. And I have personally seen where, like, so two problems that happen. One is that if you do it for the show of it, right? So unless you're solving a real problem and generating real value, and of course you need to have the buy-in of the of the respective business leader who's that process owner. I think it will be short lived. The second one is, again, I give a example also here, is that, if you do it and then you don't, like, set up a sort of support mechanism behind it. I mean, I was talking to somebody during COVID. They actually had a channel partner kind of model, go to market model, and they created a locator, and then, you could actually you could actually book an appointment with any of those for this thing. I don't know, at the back end probably it was sending email or whatever, but there was a lot of show and tell behind it. I got to know about it during a golf game, and and then I actually came home and I was very curious and I checked it out, and you know I mean, there was an hourglass going incessantly around that. I reported it, that, hey guys, this is not working. And then I think almost every week I was checking it, and the hourglass was working. So there was like, that is like, an example of where, even though there was value, but there was no support mechanism, or there was no monitoring mechanism which was put behind it. So and then, if you put a monitoring mechanism behind it, then you need manpower. You know it's so hard nowadays to get approval for a few people, just to run and monitor and support a process. So just the summary of this, Prabhakar: the technology, don't do technology for the show of it. There has to be real business value, and there has to be a long term commitment from IT as well as business to support that technology
Yes,
and
absolutely.
some sort of an accountability to generate value out of that technology. So don't look at it as a project, look at it as like a long term process. I want to add to that, Pravinder.
Yeah. So again, coming to, let's say, AI, or let's say data analytics, I'll use AI in a more broader sense to include whatever AI, ML, advanced analytics, and now Gen AI. But in general, data technology was going to get critical. That, soon after I joined, it was every time. I mean, we also got uh, one of the big consulting firms to do a assessment of what technologies in fashion retail will really matter, and what was working globally and so on. And it clearly came that we had to invest in data platform, right? And so we took that call then, though we did not have immediate use cases, and that was with the buy-in of at the leadership level, that we will put in a proper data warehouse, which initially on-prem, then we moved it now this year. In fact, we moved it entirely to cloud, uh, to be able to have that platform. And we built the first few years, we simply were focused on integrating each and every system in the organization to the data warehouse, so that you did not have to worry about where the data is, and is it in good shape and all, when you start thinking of how to use it, right? When you start building, if you're starting from how will I get this data, then you'll never build anything to scale. So we made sure that anywhere, I mean, reporting always was needed. So we made sure that we built the basic infrastructure to pull all data from all systems, irrespective of whether there was an immediate use case or not, and created that, made that investment in the data platform, which helps us today, where you can be very creative and quick in terms of trying out various models and so on, without having to worry about where will I get the data or how will I get the data.
No, I would actually, for these kind of investments, Praveen, I would like to think more about, like, building that digital core that we earlier talked about, right? Like, for example, a very strong high performance ERP will be part of that digital core, a data platform on top of which you can do, I mean, a data platform which is connected to all your systems, and where you can drive the reporting analytics, advanced
Yeah.
analytics
So, I mean, that's
afterwards.
part of the. Yeah.
Digital core, yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
I think digital core investment, just to kind of add to that discussion, the digital core investments need to be looked a little differently. It's like more from a capability building point of view, right? Rather than looking for an immediate ROI. Yeah.
I think Nitin has clarified, he meant SDN, software defined network. So yeah, I think that is the future, right? See, with in cloud, the entire networking is software defined, and I think slowly that will move even to the edge, where essentially you put a mini hardware, like a general purpose server at the edge, which runs a software and can do whatever function. It could be a firewall, it could be a IPS, it could be a router, or, and so on. So yes, I think because that essentially makes it simpler, cheaper to build your networks. And anyway, most of it is software. So if you can make it general purpose, and make it software defined, definitely that's the way to go forward.
Absolutely, absolutely. So there's another audience question, but let's first go to the part of retail, and then we come to the other question. So in fact, I this is a very interesting conversation I had with Praveen. I said, listen, you know what I mean, nowadays whenever we buy anything, we actually go to the retail store to check out, the touch and feel of the product. Okay. And then the next thing I see people doing is that they actually look at that name, etc., of that product, and they actually go to Amazon and check out the price, and then they immediately tell this guy that, hey, this is what it is. Of course, they check out the ratings as well and all that, and if everything fine, and there's always like a sort of difference between the two. But when I was talking to Praveen, he mentioned that, that's not the case
Passion.
with our products, right? And that means, then I was like, oh my god, that means you have to do so many of the things in the back end to be able to, like, get that kind of, that experience that guys, like, physical and digital is, like, it's not different, and you can't gamify me. So walk us through, like, how this whole commerce, whether it is digital or physical commerce transformation, how did you make it happen, and how technology has played a role in this?
So, yeah, so I think from a fashion perspective, right? Unlike, let's say, a consumer good or mobile phones, typically, right? There's very common mobile phones where people will go to the electronic store, pick up the phone, and then you look it up on Flipkart or Amazon, and right. And often now, I think the offline retail guys also have a model where they'll show, okay, show me that price and fine, I'll match it. So you have to do react to that, right? For offline retail to be in business. But in fashion case, what happens? People don't come generally with a very set product in mind. It doesn't happen, right? You don't come with a particular model, particular thing. That's not how fashion works, right? So you come, you browse, and you like something, and you pick it up, right? So typically, the only thing you will look for is if you, I mean, you may want to look up online is in case you can't find your size, right? So you like a product, but you're not getting your size. So I think that was the realization we had that for us, that comparison may not necessarily be true. I mean, if somebody had a product in mind, they will straight away buy online if they knew that this is what they wanted to buy without really looking at it. And there are some people. I mean, some people like they just want to buy a white shirt. They are happy that particular brand white shirt works for them, or but a blue shirt, right? And they will buy the without worrying about it, and see it buy it at the best price possible. But in general, people who come to the store are there to for the experience and for really selecting something that's there which they can try out then and there and buy the so that's the way fashion is different in a sense. uh, the to make things work seamlessly online or offline, I mean, especially when you open up your stores for e-commerce, right? Which is what we have done. I mean, we have probably over 1,500 stores currently, which are omni-channel. In fact, on our sites as well as marketplaces, Mintras and Amazons and all, if you place an order, that order may very well get serviced from a store near you rather than actually getting going to a warehouse. Now, for that, the big thing was getting your basic data right about the product. Right, in the offline world, if your tag said something, but it said large, and actually that shirt was medium, it didn't matter because you were in the store. You tried it out anyway. If you tried it out and it didn't matter, you just take a different size, right? But online, if your data is incorrect, right? If the product that is showing up in your system inventory and what is actually physically there in store, there's a mismatch. It becomes a big problem because then you will have cancellations, short picks, and so on, which increases cost, which increases. I mean, again, we are running on a no free returns, so customers will simply return it if it doesn't fit them, right? So getting for your business to work, making sure that your data is accurate, what is in system is actually the right is what is on the product is very critical, and we had to take a lot of effort to make that because before that, for the last 25 years, it didn't really matter.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
right from our suppliers, manufacturing, the cadence of ensuring that you had the right data captured about each and every product became critical. There are other things like simple thing like color, right? In our we have like a PLM, product life cycles management system, which where the designers when they create a product they will give a color, right? Now, what color to give was open to a person, right? The designer would say "Mera wala blue," right? But "Mera wala blue" doesn't work when you are trying to expose it online, right? You have to have very clear color master in a way, right? So that you have consistency in terms of customer experience. So there, actually, what we did, and it was very difficult. I mean, so the volume of products that we make and get the sources, I mean, suppliers and so on, getting this perfect was a challenge. So what we did was we put in a visual AI there. So we do photo shoots for all the products, which come show up on the sites. So when you do a photo shoot, we run a visual AI on that, which would capture the color automatically, and we limited the number of colors to a fixed count. So I think currently we are running with about some 45 colors. That whatever color, the algorithm will determine what is the color, and it will be only one of these 45 and nothing else. And that's the catalog that you will use everywhere across e-commerce. So that was again a creative use of technology to do a simple thing like cataloging and data cleanup, which otherwise would have been a painful.
Mhm.
very difficult to get done. So,
Yeah, and you were also, I think you mentioned earlier also about like connecting the supply chain, connecting all your stores inventory, everything with your e-commerce sites. I mean, we can talk a little bit about the supply chain part of it, which enables this.
yes. So supply. So again, in fashion retail, supply chain is actually very critical, because see, manufacturing is not complex. Manufacturing in this is a very simple task. It's fabric sewing, cutting, stitching, and things like that. Right? It's mostly manual, done in at the factory. But the big challenge is always about getting the. See, we are running maybe 3,000 stores, and then there is e-commerce, right? And then we sell through department stores. We have distributors and retailers, channel network, uh, and then of course the Amazon, Myntra. So all multiple channels. Now, what is when you have a particular product you make in fashion, you don't really know what's the demand eventually going to be. It's a in a way it's an estimate. I mean, guess the designers have a view, the buyers have a view based on their experience, and now we are using certain algorithms to help us better, predict the success of a particular product. But still it's a guesswork, and your supply chain is very long. So unlike other industries, where if something sells, I can keep a minimum order quantity, and if it goes below minimum order quantity, order more, right, and I'll get it. Right, here it doesn't work like that, because the fabric is made at a certain point, sometimes bought several months before, and now it would not be in production. So if you exhaust that, then you can't get that product later on. So the big challenge is, now that the product is in shortage, so some product becomes a big success. How do you really
One
ensure that,
year. Yeah.
yeah, it is available at the right store? Because again, fashion trends are not the same. What sells in the Western India will not sell in North or South or East, right? Every region in India, every state has their own their preferences. So given that, and your inventory that you can put in one store is very limited. You're putting 1,000 square feet store, and if you try to put each and every product, you would probably need 10,000 square feet, which anyway won't work. So having the ability, deciding that what should sit where, and having a mechanism where, depending on what is selling, being able to move inventory between stores, very quickly, between warehouse and stores, and not only replenish, but also replace. Because if you run out or you're in shortage, then making the decision as to, if I am short of a particular SKU, what should I replace that SKU with, so that I still don't lose sale? Some similar color, similar style, can I still send it to that store which is seeing a demand for a particular item? So that whole supply chain network again is a very it's a complex process, and a big role for algorithm. In fact, some of these are problems which you couldn't solve earlier without using advanced analytics, AI kind of technologies. So,
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think that's interesting. So now comes your two questions, one from me and one from the audience. By the way, there is some appreciation for you here. Ratnesh says inventory in real time with location intelligence is the nirvana stage, and ABFRL has made great strides in perfecting this. So that's some
well, thank you.
appreciation for your efforts, Praveen bhai. I think Ratnesh, I'm sure, knows a lot more about what we are talking, what I'm talking, and more about what you are talking here, and that's how he's appreciating. So this next question is about like the M&As, the mergers and acquisitions. So ABFRL has grown rapidly through mergers and acquisitions. So how do you maintain technology quality, and what is your approach to I mean to with for the M&As?
So again, I think I am not new to many scenarios, and handling the technology parts of M&A. When I was at WNS, again, we acquired number of businesses. Then I was at WNS and Sutherland, both places. Then here, of course, last 5 years we have, I think, acquired some 7 8 different businesses. So I think it's very clear that it's always better to have a standardized approach, and not try to do too many different things, right? You may have some, maybe 2 3 flavors depending on size of business and so on, but otherwise, be clear that here is what you'll do. And I normally, the approach I take on acquisitions, merger acquisitions, to first lead with getting the infrastructure and information security right. Because the moment you do that, it's best to first manage risk and manage the core infra, which often are pain points in a new organization, and there is always change. You're sometimes, I mean, you're changing maybe your office automation tool, right? Your how you integrate your network, because again, you're going to integrate that enterprise network. If your security tools are not in place, you are going to add risk to the entire enterprise. So first focus is on getting the infra and the information security in place. And once that is done, then focus on the systems migration. And there again, not try to, if they may have something, you may run with that for a period of time. Obviously, you can't change all systems at one time. So do some prioritization of what you will touch, what you will not touch. But eventually, it should be clear that my end state will be as good as, same as every other place, so that you get to a standard platform which you can manage, effectively with your existing team, and you not have to have one separate team and overheads of management for that. So in our case, for instance, we built like two flavors. One is for large businesses, one for small businesses. In large businesses, we have our core SAP backbone and our cloud POS and Dynamics. In small businesses, what we do is, we've gone with a entire cloud-based ERP plus POS, so single system, fully cloud-based. So for the business also, it's far more cost-effective, plus easy to implement and faster to implement. You don't, most know it takes a while if you to really roll out SAP. Again, not something that we learned on day one. The first couple of acquisitions, we actually started rolling out SAP, and then we learned the hard way that maybe this is not the best way of doing it, and then we changed. And now we have standardized that small businesses will do cloud-based, complete cloud-based solution rather than going into extending our current on.
No, that's interesting. So, I mean, the quick takeaways are like, you have to simplify the number of options, uh, the number of alternatives that you will have. But then when you get into one, you have a very clearly defined end state, and how you get to that end state is a matter of prioritization, right? But the first priority is always for the core, which is your infra and security, and then you move on your to realize
Applications.
your time, to realize your end state. Yeah. Okay. So on this question, now comes Mohit Harbola's question. My team tells me that this LinkedIn user here is Mohit Harbola. So his question is: Good evening, and it's a great opportunity to interact with Mr. Praveen. I want to know how he's preparing for the planned demerger of the ABFRL into two businesses in the next few months. How tech will be playing a role in the demerger, and how will it look post the entire process? If you can throw some light.
Right. Yeah. So in this case, it's not such a challenge, because see, one thing is we are not splitting the tech, right? So we have set up our core ERP with separate company codes for by business anyway, right? So the business which is getting demerged is already in a separate company code. Right now it's a division. Tomorrow it will become a separate legal entity, right? So its books will be separate. So reporting and all will become separate. But we are not really demerging it end to end, right? So we'll still have the same standard systems stack, and it'll simply operate as I mean, it'll support two different businesses, partner agreements. I mean, contractually and all that. Obviously, there'll be separation, right? License will get split, support contracts will get split into on some basis, but essentially the management of it will remain the same. Core will not really change. So,
Okay, okay. So you will not have the IT department is split into two parts.
not, I mean, we still, even today, for each business, we have some people based in the business unit. So they will remain in the business unit again. So they, instead of being in one company role, they'll move to other company role. But their responsibilities will by and large remain same. There will still be a core central team managing the core stack, which will support both the businesses.
Okay, got it, got it. So we have a Manish Gupta here, and he's not the
Um,
Manish Gupta of Aditya Birla. Do you know this Manish Gupta?
I'm not sure.
Okay, okay. So he's a friend. I think he's, if I'm correct, he's the Manish Gupta who's based in West Coast. And I'm wondering how he's accessing it now, because this is something like 5:30 a.m.
Yeah.
In US. I don't know, Manish, if you are in India, and so he says one of my favorite brands are owned by ABFRL. But Manish, will be very curious to know what that
Which
brand
one?
is. send that across. Yeah. I
Glad
was
that's the
like,
case.
first I read it as that ABFRL is my favorite brand, and I said, but ABFRL is not a brand; it's owner of brands. Okay, okay. So let's move on to. I think we are like just 5 minutes away from our allotted time, and I'm like amazed at how time flies in these sessions. To me, it seems like we've been discussing only for 30 minutes. So Praveen, we have actually for Praveen as well as for everybody else. Um, uh, so we have this one last question, and then we'll go to a rapid fire and then a reverse question. So maybe let's see if we can finish it in 5 minutes. But I want to pick Praveen's brains on as I mentioned, he has managed through three crises. He has navigated through three different crises: the dot-com burst, the global financial crisis, and then the COVID. So maybe Praveen, if you can talk about what is it specifically that challenges that these crises pose to you, and how did you overcome, and maybe what is one of the underlying common things across these.
Right. I think the question is, crisis. Yes, you face a crisis, right? Uh, are you going to get bogged down by it, or are you going to use it to do something which you wanted to do but never had time to do, and right, or the opportunity to do, right? So I have looked at the other way because in general I've had that optimism. I should say that we will come out of it. I mean, even probably COVID was the most, unexpected one. In our business, it was like one fine day, all stores are suddenly shut, business becomes zero, right? It was like that, and in a very short period, right? But that time, and again, I think credit to my managing director and the leadership team that what I proposed that we were looking at that whole transformation of the store POS from an on-prem to a cloud, and we had decided we want to go down that path. So we said this is now the best opportunity to actually do that because footfall in store is anyway not there. The disruption that will cause, the impact of that will be minimal because anyway you're not going to have that much footfall over the next whatever year or so. Right, so we used an opportunity to actually, and we got that was a time when we could get good deals with service providers, with
Yeah.
with technology suppliers. So we did that, and we managed to roll out that new cloud POS across all our stores in the following about a year and a half or so. So we use that as an opportunity to take it. Similarly, earlier, as I said, I mean, in the dot-com boom, I was in the cable TV business. So the internet became a thing, and because internet was such a big thing, we raised money first, right? So that was the opportunity to raise money. We raised it. Post the bust, suddenly, anything to do with internet was the bad word. But we knew that long term it is going to come. So then we channelized our. So it will not grow the way we thought it was. Right, the excels that were done in the pre-boom days were very different than what how reality played out. But so what would have been 5 years became 15 maybe. But the direction was clearly that, and so that was the time that we when got into learning how to really do our upgrade our cable networks effectively to be able to do two-way data, and at the most optimal cost. Because initially when we started doing, it was fine. Somehow get it to work. Don't worry about cost, just do it. Right? But the moment you need to scale, then you need to make sure you are doing it, the cost-effective way. Work out the business case. Pick the areas where you will focus, where you think there'll be great opportunity. So all those things then came in, but not to stop what you're doing. Right? Maybe slow down a bit, right? But if you're clear that the direction is where where it is going, invest.
Yeah.
I mean, it's time to invest, not to scale back.
No, that I think that's the biggest takeaway from it. That these crises will come and go. I mean, if you are clear about the direction, then you can use the time of the crisis to actually fast track some of those initiatives to go in that direction, because you get the opportunity, because the business pressures are a little lesser that time, so you can work on. So that's great, Praveen. Let me see if there are any other audience questions. Hey, Manish, sorry for confusing you. I know three Manish Guptas. So
Recipe.
I got really confused. Also, the fact that that we have not talked for a while, so I guess we need to talk, man. So yeah, and his favorite brand is Van Heusen. By the way, so is mine. And we have a joke in the family. My wife actually, calls. I mean, the first times she pronounced Van Heusen was actually as Van Hussein. Okay, and we still pull her leg on Van Hussein. Yeah, of course, that's one of my favorite brands as well, and that's why we have family discussions on this. Okay, so I think Praveen, let's go to the rapid fire stuff now quickly. Some of it we
Sure.
have covered, like for example, your different college time interests. But beyond mountaineering and trekking, was there anything else?
I mean, now of course I play golf. And we have played together. I'm trying to pick it up. Not as good as you. Obviously, you are at a different level. But yeah, that's my more recent interest. I like traveling. I do like music. Uh, I can't say anything else which is a major
Ham
beyond that.
radio, ham radio. I think you missed the ham radio part.
Ham radio was then again. It
Yes,
doesn't
yes.
not relevant anymore. But yeah, in those days it used to be a very. I used to be more in that.
Yeah. Okay, so what is it? I mean, what goes on inside you? Like that drives you to like explore new things and even innovations.
I guess I'm just curious. I mean, in general, it's probably curiosity and
Yes.
to some
Yeah.
extent risk taking. I don't run away from risk. I, in fact, enjoy the maybe the adrenaline rush of managing some risk. So
I think that's kind of common between both of us. I mean, no, I always tell people that if you want to stay young, stay curious, and don't be afraid of taking risks. So, now picking up some your brains on your early, I would say, very early stint as a VC. So, what are three things you look for in a business when you are as a VC?
I would not say I'm very qualified to answer that question, but what can I mean? So clearly, see the first obviously, and we will tell you it's the management and the founding team, right? Fine. First, you have to be really comfortable. It has to have that sort of fire in the belly that you need, especially in the VC. Private equity, maybe not so much, but VC stage definitely. There has to be that commitment, passion about what they're doing. Second, I would say is the industry or whatever the market that you're getting into. I mean, again, I think as Warren Buffett says that good industry, bad management, good industry, good business, bad management, good management will still succeed, but bad industry, good management still the company will fail, right? So it is very difficult even for the best of managements to uh, turn around. Again, it's not a mantra. There have been cases where it's the other way. People.
I think the airlines turning billionaires into millionaires was one of those.
Yeah, obviously, people when they start, they think they will do well, but
Absolutely.
and some do also. I mean, some people who take those risks, the bets play off. Many of them, but in general, that is the other thing that you will be convinced that the market for the product exists, and it will scale as expected. Right?
Okay.
Often the projections can be misleading. So,
Yeah, absolutely. Production, or sometimes the projections can come like much later after you
yes,
go.
the time can be a lot more. So you have to
For
be
example,
prepared for
all these airlines, they actually bet on growth, and that growth is coming now after they've gone bust. Yeah. Okay. So, one book you would recommend to our audience?
One book, okay, bit difficult, but one I can say what I'm reading now. There's one called The Coming Wave. It is by Mustafa Suleiman. So it's actually I'm not reading, I'm listening. I started more on audiobooks nowadays, but it's interesting. I mean, it really talks about all the emerging technologies which in a way, it are forming some kind of a wave. It's
Okay. Okay.
interesting.
And maybe the last couple of ones, three things that a leader should stop. to make space for his own growth?
So say that again.
Three things that one has to stop
To
doing
stop.
for to create space for your own growth as a leader.
One is stop controlling, right? I don't. You have to delegate, right? And you have to create your next line. So don't micromanage, don't control. Let people be free, let people develop. Because only when you do that, that you can move to your next role, right? Because if you are stuck in doing day-to-day things, and because you're the best at it, you will never move forward. And you may be the best, but then you will get stuck in that if you don't really create the next level and start delegating,
Ab-
even if it's not the best. It's okay. You Like you learn, others will also learn, right? There'll be some mistakes, but as long as you can manage them, you should trust people and let them
So
move on.
that's basically stop controlling, delegate, create the next line, and be tolerant to mistakes. Okay.
Correct.
So
Second is the risk taking. See, one thing about risk taking is you will fail, right? And or things will get delayed, right? Yes, we sometimes commit very tight timelines and we have pressure on timelines. But as long as there's honest effort and there is a technology element which is a bit uncertain in that, if it's fixed,
absolutely.
clearly known, then yes, maybe there's no excuse. But if there is people, you're encouraging people to try out new things and do things, then you have to give a long rope so that you take that time to get it right and not
Yeah.
rush into it. It's important to first get it right and then scale and not get rush into things.
Yeah,
That
no,
would be, I think,
absolutely, absolutely. I think that's a good one. Yeah, get it right before scaling up. Yeah,
what
that's
else?
so true. That's so true. Yeah. So the last one is basically I'll pick up a question from Manish Gupta. Okay. Uh, any new business models emerging in the fashion world?
All the time. I think, again, fashion. I'm sure all of you have heard of Sheen, right? So Shine or Sheen, the Chinese company which has taken the world by storm. We are not touched because it was blocked in India, we being a Chinese app. But essentially, they have crunched the supply chain. I mean, the innovation there has been in the supply chain. They are on negative working capital. So,
Wow.
so most people either try to set, the traditional world of fashion was that there would be these designers that would come up with new designs every season. I mean, things used to work at season level. Season is a 6 month, and the designs for that season would get done even 6 months before, 6 to 9 months before that, because that used to be the lead time to really get the product to the market, right? So they have changed the model where they don't design upfront. They simply track social media trends, and based on the social media trends, it's almost AI-led design. And using that design, they have a very high capacity, flex manufacturing capacity setup. So they can pick up a trend, create a design, and get it produced in like maybe a week, 2 weeks, and have
Wow.
it shipped in the market, and that's in US from China in
So are you?
a month.
So are you saying it's like build to order in fashion?
It's not built on. No, no. It's
Okay. Okay.
regular products, but
Okay.
it's just the
Track
ability
with
to, yeah, detect a trend and respond very quickly to
okay.
that trend. Right? Shrinking the supply chain essentially. So it's a supply chain optimization, you can say, along with again using technology end to end almost. Right. So
Okay.
you're sensing trends. Latest movie which has become a hit. What are the your stars wearing? Pick that up. Get that produced in the next 2 weeks and have it in the market in another two.
Oh
So
wow. Wow.
right? So that's the kind of the shrinking the supply chain in a way is the next big thing probably happening.
Okay. Oh, no, that's interesting. Yeah. Okay. So Praveen, I think I'm done with mine, and like we are a little bit over time.
So
I
yeah, that's a
I, I
great conversation. Yeah, nice talking to you.
absolutely. Anything you wanted to ask me? Any reverse question to me before we summarize, and maybe finish in the next couple of minutes?
No, I think the format you run is very interesting and good to be on this. I did, of course, listen to a few when you told me to be part of this, and really, I think great platform that you've built. I'm sure very useful for all CIOs, as
Yeah.
well as other leaders in the industry. So. Wish you all
Thank you,
success.
Praveen. So Praveen, great session. Let me just do a quick summary of the session. I mean, assuming that some people are going to be like, just looking, just
Late.
looking
Yeah.
at this. So, you know, Praveen utilized college to realize his diverse interests, and kind of like enrich his personality. He's gone from project financing to investment funds, dirtying his hands in the cable TV business, went on to Sunrise BPO industry, joined Group IT, and then took on the role of the CDIO. He's worked with, I mean, one of the insights we got is that he has worked in industries on the question of like, being an early innovator, and first mover. So he worked in industries where technology was core to the business operation. Now that was an insight for me, and therefore technology has a key role to play in operations, and therefore I think you got a free hand as well as investments to make in those new technologies. So in cable TV, it was moving to digital and broadband internet. In the BPO, it was transforming the networks part of it, and somewhere there was a connection between his cable TV experience, where mastering the networks, and then bringing that to transform the cost models in the BPO industry. Then we talked about the building the digital core. So in building the digital core, I think the first principle that he espoused was that what's visible gets attention, and therefore we need to go beyond that premise that what creates the scalability and reliability should get attention, and that comes from a strong back end. And then we went through his case studies of setting up a ISP backbone which was so critical to the business model of Hathway. In ABFRL, like upgrading SAP, moving to cloud POS, etc. Uh, uh, and then there was a audience question about about the FOMO of technology, and then we discussed that you have to really be clear about how technology is relevant to your business. And Praveen talked about the example of blockchain and metaverse, and then how these became very big fads, but then you but the context in which these would realize value are not for everybody, right? And we also had a counterpoint there that investing in core, like for example a data platform, right? Even though you may not have an immediate you can say value case, still investing in core you need to look at a little bit differently, uh, because that's more like investment in capability rather than a specific project. Um, and then we talked about the phygital commerce, and I think it was really interesting to see that he started with data quality, because if the quality is not data quality is not right, then you have real tangible business impact in terms of the returns, cancellations, and then the customer experience. So then therefore using visual AI to capture the color accurately, limiting the number of colors, connecting the supply chain with e-commerce, facilitating that movement of inventory between his stores, creating replacement mechanisms, etc., etc. Then we moved on to discussing the M&As. M&As are not new to Praveen, so he had done it before. But some quick key principles is that simplify the number of alternatives. Well, don't keep it only one. But first thing first, get the core infrastructure and security right. The next thing is to define the end state based on your architecture model, and then you prioritize the transition projects as you go along, depending on the business priorities. So yeah, I think, and then we had a good rapid fire round where I think Praveen talked about his, gave his advice on like three things people have to stop doing, etc. So that brings us to the end of the session. Thank you everybody for attending and engaging, and thank you all of you who are watching the recorded version. Also, we know majority of our audience watch the recorded version, so I must thank you. we see the views really rapidly going up within a week of this chat. So, guys, whoever is online with us right now, please thank you for joining us, and please enjoy your family time over the weekend. And thank you, Praveen, for joining me on Clarity Chat today on a Saturday evening. Uh, and we'll be back next to next Saturday.
Thanks, Jagdish, for
Thank you,
having me
Praveen.
on this.
Hey, thanks, Praveen. It was really nice to have you with us. Thank you, everyone. Bye bye.
Bye bye.